According to the English poet George Herbert, words are women, deeds are men. If he was right and not just a sexist pig, then our next speaker is one hell of a word. The captain of the negative, Carl Wilson!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Actions do not speak louder than words. No one in the history of the world has ever said, "I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over all the mime." Before I go any further, I want to rebut some of the things that Paul said. He started by ripping up his script. I wish he'd kept the first one. And then he talked about shitting all over the podium, just like the angry pigeon that he is. And then he said that we would talk about it for years. He said we would talk about it for years, not reenact it. He said that people would remember that Paul McDermott gives a shit. I think everyone was thinking, oh, I'd like to see you give a fuck. He also said that I'd find it difficult if he had shat all over the podium. I'd find it difficult when I got up here. I have a 3-year-old. I'm used to poo. And then he told us that the world understood this universal action, which I think is, the potatoes are burning my hands. And also, when he tried to get an answer from you guys, your slightly limpid response showed you just how much people hate audience participation. And then he said something about binary, but by that stage I'd stopped listening. Something about line, circle, penis, vagina, line, circle, like some kind of sexy play school. Now, the affirmative would have you believe that actions speak louder than words. If so, why are we using words to argue it? It's called the Great Debate, not the Big Dance-Off. So we have our esteemed opponents over here. We have Paul McDermott, who is my off-stage friend, but my on-stage opponent. My pretend enemy, my faux foe. Not my foo-foo, that's something entirely different. Oh, words. You're so tricky. Paul McDermott, a man who manifests his masculinity through the mass production of body hair. Man, a hairy man, a man attractive in a slightly scary way, as if he's been bitten by a werewolf, but it's the day before the full moon. A man who called his festival show Paul Sings. Now, I haven't seen the show, but I understand there are people that have. But presumably in that show, Paul sings words, unless he spends an hour imitating the Trololo guy. It's called Paul Sings, not Paul acts out the good bits from Today Tonight, which would make for a considerably shorter show. And then we have Paul Foot. I love Paul Foot. He appears to be not only from another planet, but also from the future and the 90s simultaneously. Like he should be a guest star on Shatner-era Star Trek, appearing as their idea of an intergalactic businessman. His limpid eyes and soft mullet giving him the air of a spaniel who works in an office. Who knows what beautiful, eccentric, shiny Paul Foot is going to say? Even after he said it, we still won't be sure. And then we come to Eddie Pepitone. Eddie Pepitone. Eddie Pepitone. Now, I have to admit, I know very little about Eddie Pepitone. I've only just met him, but what I do know is I really like saying Eddie Pepitone. Because it is the coolest, most mafia-sounding name of anyone here on stage. But I agree. I think with his beautiful belly and his wonderful cherry cheeks and his lovely red shirt, he looks more like Santa in a witness protection program. Potent than actions. Take my two beloved teammates, Josh Thomas and Rich Hall. We're comedians, our job is words. Do you hear my heart? That's how much I love them. And we crave affirmation not just with laughter, but with words. For example, reviews. You don't care about them, but we read them and we fester over them and we stew. We want nice words, not nice actions. You can't tell me that the affirmative team would turn down a review that said original, inventive, hilariously wonderful, the pinnacle of comedy, and exchange it for... built on words, not actions. Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." He didn't step up to the podium and go... Think of the amazing highs and lows that words can give you. I'm pregnant. It's not yours. Or indeed vice versa. I'm pregnant. It's not yours. And what about sorry? Sorry is the hardest word of all. Much easier to go... but harder to go, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that I slept with your mum. Dad. That's shocked you more than any action could. Words allow you to crystallise an idea far better than actions can. Take ballet. Swan Lake is 3 hours long. If they'd been allowed to talk, don't do that, he'll turn you into a duck. Done. Now, actions can be misconstrued, but words are unambiguous, except for the word ambiguous, which is quite ambiguous. But actions are always open to misunderstanding. For example, what am I doing? I could just be whisking an egg, or I might indeed be indulging in some me time. I think it's very appropriate that I'm using that to demonstrate me time. Telling you, using actual words, going on actions, you wouldn't know whether I was just making an omelette or whether, in fact, I was trying to capsize the little man in the boat. What about lying? Lying is more powerful than actions. I did this once when I was 5. On her way to wash her hands in our bathroom, I froze a primary school friend in our hallway simply by saying, "Watch out for the Egyptian mummy in the bath." She refused to go in, completely believing that we had a white porcelain sarcophagus that was full of the remains of a long-dead pharaoh. One of my friends also said that when she was 5, her father told her that dogs take their coats off at night. She spent months searching their Labrador for a zip. She never found it, but she did find the nozzle they pumped him up with. Words speak far louder than actions, as I discovered to my own cost. Once when I appeared on the beloved children's cartoon series, Good News Week. I made a casual comment about Lady Gaga. What I said was, if you're going to dress like a hard rubbish collection, at least look happy about it. Little did I know the power, the reach that those words would have. I'd done nothing but talk. All I'd done was talk. And by the next morning, I was getting death threats on Twitter from all around the world. Gaga's little monsters mobilising themselves through the power of their words. My favourite death threat, if I can have a favourite death threat, and this is verbatim, was, "When I'm old enough to get my licence, I'm going to run you over in my car." Powerful words. Powerful, powerful words. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, in the words of the Bee Gees, whose words have given them immortality far beyond their lifespan, it's only words. And words are all I have to take your heart away. Ladies and gentlemen, words are so powerful, they can give you a heart transplant. The Bee Gees said it, so it must be true. Thank you.
After the break, be very afraid.